And welcome to the next level. We are coming to you live from wherever we happen to be at this particular moment in time, and happy to get together and have some fun for you guys. So, first thing, right off the bat, we actually have an announcement. So the thing that we've been sort of figuring out for the last little while is the format that we're currently doing, which is the weekly format, and sort of streaming the main game on that. And we've sort of reconsidered how we want to do that and what sort of works best for all of us. So we're going to be going to an every other week scenario coming soon. So next week, the 27th, we will still be here, but then we will skip a week and be back on August 10th, and then be doing every 2 weeks after that. Now, there might still be some stuff in between, and we'll let you know if you should be tuning in. We might be doing some more informal stuff. Maybe we can sort of get together and chat about the game, or chat with sort of people on Twitch as well. We'll see what we're sort of going to be doing and what we're able to do. But for now, the main game, at least, is going to be every other week, starting after next week. So the 27th and then the 10th of August. And I got all those days right. Yay, okay. Next announcement. We are going to be minus a cast member for next week. So if you are out there and potentially want to be a special guest, we will potentially be looking to have a guest in to fill a spot for next week. So I'll also be putting a call out online after the show, and we'll see who we can get. All right. Next is the ask for this week, which is going to be really fun. So we're looking for something that is silly or fun or interesting that happens to the first character who rolls a 1 during this session. So if you have some fun ideas for things that could happen to somebody who happens to roll a 1, could be anything, could be an intelligence check, could be an attack, it could be a saving throw, doesn't matter. So sort of the more general, the weird thing that could happen, the better. Yeah, we'll see what happens. And last but not least, for getting back into the swing of things, I'm going to ask for Jacob's start of session roll.
14.
14. All right. So, to pick up where we left off last time, and it will be pretty much just a moment or two after we left off last time, the characters had come to the Temple of the Archmage, hidden in the northern reaches of the Shadow Forest, to hide and sort of get away from things. They had brought along with them Morgan and Brotto, who were fleeing the Syndicate in Silver Lake, and thought this might be a good place to keep them for a little bit of time, including potentially the statue that they had stolen that was being sought as well, especially since the compound here is guarded from divination. Hopefully then nobody would be able to find them. Also, the characters thought this might be a good place to just relax and do a little research. There's a rather extensive library here. Maybe there's some things they could find out for all of the various little different bits and pieces of things they've been looking into. And definitely Leon was very excited about that side of things. So they arrived at the temple. They introduced Morgan and Brotto to the abbot, and everyone got settled in for the night. But in the middle of the night, there was a bit of an uproar. Yes, Talon was woken up by a gnome named Gerbo, who implored Talon to help them destroy the temple. Talon went along with this and proceeded to, pardon me, descend into the depths of the temple with Gerbo, where the gnome retrieved the heart of the Archmage, as well as set up a device which seemed to be something perhaps meant to destroy the temple. Through a series of interesting events, the rest of our heroes got involved, and luckily Talon had saved them from imminent destruction by helping them get out of the temple. And then Leon had been brought in by the infamous little white bunny that had been around for bits and pieces of sessions. But unfortunately not able to figure out exactly what this device was, just took the direct route, took it outside, teleported up into the air. Well, it was thunderstepped up into the air and let it go off. Leon himself was spared from the destruction that it wreaked. However, everyone else did take just a wee bit of damage. And luckily, that explosion also woke up pretty much everybody else at the temple who came rushing out. There was a bit of an uproar around this. The gnome disappeared in this uproar as well. And then the Archmage herself made an appearance and gave Leon a stone that would help anybody seek and find her heart, and also had a bit of a conversation with Talon about things that Talon believed to be true. All right, so we pick up as sort of things are still sort of settling. The Archmage has just disappeared. Torok has just given some words of wisdom to Talon, and yeah. We'll sort of sink right back into things. There's clerics all around you. Some of them are sort of healing you in bits and pieces. I'll be giving you some sort of random numbers.
Healing?
Yes, healing.
Medic.
I would like my intestines to be back inside.
That is generally a good place for them to be, yes.
Also, you'll notice that Torok from the force damage is 2 inches shorter. Hopefully once that back.
And yes, what would the rest of you like to do?
So Leon, who had been just charging off back into the library to continue what she'd been trying to do for so long, basically, once she gets to the doorway, kind of stops, kind of looks around, turns around, looks at her hands, looks up at the sky, kind of looks pale, and then comes over to the group and kind of tries to kind of gather everybody together as much as she can with all the clerics and everything like that, and just says, I am so sorry. I didn't realize that 90 feet would not be far enough. I thought that you would be outside of any potential blast radius, and I'm so sorry that you got injured. And I'm glad to see that you've all survived. Is there anything that any of you need me to do for you?
Would you heal me?
So yes, some quick healing done by some of the clerics that are around. Talon, you get 12. Mint, you get 19.
Yay.
Jacob, you get, that's a nice roll, 22. Gildy, you get 7. And Torok, I don't think you took a whole lot. Wow.
I have 4 hit points left.
Oh, okay. That's right. You did fail to save, but you weren't. I'm like, you're raging. No, but that's force damage. So yes, you get 16. No, I did the math wrong. 20.
And if we are heading to bed, I can spread out some healing spells also.
Yeah, and that's just to sort of get you back and rejuvenated. There's lots of clerics around who can spread up more healing after that. But yes, Leon was asking a question.
Torok looks over and goes, "You have nothing to apologize for. We'd be less than ash if it wasn't for you."
Thank you, Torok.
How are you not hurt?
So that's where Leon kind of had been recovering from being pale and becomes pale again and says, I believe that I was obliterated in the blast and immediately resurrected by the Archmage. That is the only thing that makes logical sense. If you took this much damage, if there was this much damage at a 90 foot, I was right at the epicenter of the blast. I must have surely been obliterated, but I was here right after. And it was a deity, and deities can resurrect you, so I think that must be what happened.
And I will say also, that's something I hadn't considered previously. The temple itself was partially within that blast radius, so the at least the sort of the front part of the temple that comes out a little bit has probably sustained some significant damage. Sort of the entranceway and sort of the opening hall, and probably need to be repaired in bits and pieces over the next little while.
After his conversation with the Archmage, Talon will, after a few moments, kind of like come up from, being down on one knee, and after Leon gives her speech, just sort of puts a hand on Leon's shoulder and just says, "Thank you," and walks off to try to.
Leon hugs Talon before she can walk away. Once the hand is on the shoulder, Leon just hugs Talon for a second and then lets him go.
Talon is surprised, but totally lets it happen. And then Talon is going to go off to try to find the Abbot Bear, and oh my god, why is his name not coming to me? My mentor, Vanoir. Vanoir, yeah, and Vanoir to go and sort of confide in them and kind of explain his role in this and why.
Even as you're approaching, the abbot is already out and about, and sort of seeing you approach, he actually quickly hurries up to you and says, when I was coming out, I saw some strange celestial being carrying off Gerbo. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Obviously, there's been some great event, the Archmage, I think, mentioned something about her heart being missing. I feel this is something that we need to address fairly quickly.
Yes, you are absolutely right. I unfortunately know more than most of what just happened here, but you are right that the Archmage's heart is in fact stolen, and it is imperative that we retrieve it.
He sort of gathers you even before you can say much more than that, and heads actually back over to where Leon is.
Yeah.
Saying, I believe you received something to help find the heart. Is that true?
Yes.
May I see it?
Yes. I pull it out.
All right. And yeah, you just sort of, if you let it lie sort of in your palm, it'll sort of spin around a little bit and then sort of point in a direction. And it's like, okay, good. And you can see sort of wheels turning in the abbot's head, and he calls out some names, starts gathering some people. It's like, we will go after Gerbo. We will take care of this. This is my house. This is my mess. Please, I'm sorry that you were involved in any of this. And if we might be allowed to use this, we will go and seek out Gerbo and bring them back.
Leon looks at Gildy.
Like wondering what Gildy's response is.
Yeah.
Could you repeat what the abbot said?
Essentially, the abbot is gathering a force to go and get Gerbo.
Okay.
But it's otherwise suggesting that it is his problem to take care of and not yours.
Gildy. Gildy's she doesn't care all that much about the gods, so I feel like in this particular case, she would be like, that sounds like the right thing that you should be doing. Yes. So as when Leon looks at her, she probably, Gildy would say, it does sound like his mess.
And he's the person who's in charge here.
You're muted, Will.
Thank you.
Yes, the abbot is the one in charge.
Yeah. So, I mean, Will is giving the impression, that maybe this is not the path for the characters to follow, but Talon would absolutely step forward and say, like, this is also my mess to clean, and would volunteer to help in the search.
And the abbot, like, without being dismissive, pretty much dismisses that. It's like, you haven't been here. There's little you could have done that would have led to this. This is. I get that there's something you want to tell me about, and we can get to that. But I'm just going to send a force off to get Gerbo, bring the heart back as quick as we can, and hope that.
And Turok makes himself fairly large towards the abbot and says, "With due respect, sir, do not plan without knowing all the information."
That is fair. Then out with it quickly.
And he just looks at Talon and says, "You're doing the right thing."
Talon, up until this point, uncharacteristically, looks toward, like, sort of directly in the eyes and just kind of gives a nod and a kind of acknowledging and thank you. And Talon turns to the abbot and says, I was involved in what happened here.
How so?
Talon looks around. Who all is privy to this current conversation?
The abbot just called over, like, probably close to a dozen of the, like, high-ranking members of the temple.
Okay, so then Talon wouldn't have said that in the moment. He would have said that it's something that we should probably discuss in private, but that it is important and that we should talk about it very soon.
All right, but it won't affect us going after Gerbo.
No.
All right.
At this point, Mint kind of goes up to Leon and asks, like, as far as I know, when a divine creature gives something to someone, it's for that person and that person alone to utilize, is it not? Like, were you given this by the Archmage for you to use to track the heart, or is the Archmage okay with you giving it off to somebody else?
I was about to ask Rob that very question because I can't remember. It's been a week, so I can't remember how it was conveyed.
How it was conveyed.
Was it like here's this for you to go recover my heart? Or is this you're the closest person to me. Here, take this. Somebody go get my heart, for goodness sake.
A little more of the latter. It was a little more, you happen to be here in front of me. You have done a lot to help tonight. I really appreciate that. Here's something that will help find my heart. Please find my heart. Not necessarily you specifically, but you happen to be there at the moment, and the important thing is getting the heart back, not necessarily who does it.
Okay, but did I effectively have a deity say, "Here you go, have this thing. Please get my heart back"?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm definitely going to go along because I had a deity be like, who just raised me from the dead, be like, "Here, take this, get my heart back." I'll be like, "Okay, I have been divinely charged to do this." So, yes.
Okay.
I hope we're not ruining Rob's plan for this evening.
Nope, I had planned to go either way, depending on how you decided to do this. So.
Okay. So Leon just says, it was given to me, and I certainly owe the Archmage, so I will be going along.
That is fair. I have to quickly look up a spell. How many? Up to 10. He's sort of saying, well, there's only so many who we could probably bring with us. But if you would like to be one of them, definitely the Archmage has given you this tool, so we can take you along. It is up to you. I'm fairly certain the Archmage would be fine with any of us using this to get her heart back. But if you feel divinely called to aid us in this quest, then feel free to come along.
Yes.
Your studies can wait till after, correct?
And actually, at this point, Turok takes Talon aside and asks, "Is there anyone among this group who could be going after the heart who works for whoever you are working for?"
Talon would look around because it's a very good question, and try to just assess all the people. but as far as Talon is concerned, or as far as Talon is aware, there's no one else. But at this point, he now isn't certain that that is the case. Because up until recently, he thought that he was sort of singled out. And then he found out that, wait, there's now somebody else who was sort of like him in terms of being called upon to do things. So now he's not sure, because other people might have too, but he has no idea. But there's no one he's aware of. Although, and this is something that sort of I put into my sort of backstory, the cloak that Talon wears was something that was sort of given to him by, this other entity, so to speak. And so he might look around to see if he sees a familiar sort of article of clothing or something.
Give me a perception check.
Oh, not so
13.
perceptive.
Well, 13's okay. At a quick look around, again, people are just sort of, it's still the middle of the night. People sort of come rushing out. Nobody is wearing a similar cloak to what you would expect for yours.
Okay. So yeah, so Talon's response to Torok is, I do not believe so.
But my concern is, are we sending Leon into a trap?
The Archmage asked us to help retrieve her heart. I don't believe it's a trap of,
Not the Archmage, but of somebody in the search party.
Yes. It's a good question, and I cannot be certain.
So I'll ask the question, who does Talon trust?
Right now, so within the party, Talon trusts Gildy above all others, but has very quickly, over the course of what's this been now, like 2.5 weeks or so?
Oh no, it's been almost
Longer. We were in the forest for weeks.
it's been
Has
at
it been
least
that
20
long?
days, I think.
Well, it's okay. Yeah. So over the course of that 20 days, has very quickly developed a trust and a sense of what's the word I'm looking for?
Camaraderie?
Yeah, just like with the group, in terms of like, these are good people, and doesn't believe that there's anything there. In terms of at the monastery, the abbot and Venoir, certainly. He has a couple of friends who he has trusted back when he was a student or a resident here. Most of the others, he's doesn't think there's anybody. I mean, there's a couple people he didn't get along with, but I don't think there's anybody that he would single out to say, I don't trust them. It's more of I either don't like them, or or I do think I can trust them, or don't know.
Okay.
But no one that has sort of stood out as not trustworthy. Yeah.
During the moment that Talon and Torok go off to the side after Jacob has made his jibe at Leon's expense, Leon comes over, puts her hand on Jacob's shoulder in kind of an affectionate way, and then swoops in for a quick hug before he knows what hit him, and then walks away.
I would react. Leon, it honors me that you would think so highly, and I'm not sure what I did that you would feel it. That it just thrills me that you would name your horse after me. But now that you have saved my life, I think your debt is paid. And friends, do not worry about Leon going alone on this mission. It will be Leon and Jacob, his horse. I'm okay to stay here. It's fine.
Her horse.
Her horse. Sorry.
And the abbot will sort of chime in and say, like, no horses are going. We'll be using a special spell to convey us quite quickly.
Well, all right.
Ooh, spells.
Yes. And yeah, like of the people that the abbot had called over, he'd sort of been talking in bits and pieces. There seems to be roughly about 10 that have sort of come and gone and are now seeming to be sort of mostly prepared for a journey or a fight or encounter of some sort. And are a couple more sort of still coming in. You've got maybe a couple more minutes before they're ready to head out.
Well, are we
so
heading out on
these-
this?
That's the question.
Yeah, so all of the monks, especially particularly the ones who are being assembled. Oh, sorry, can you hear
We
me?
lost Gildy for a moment.
Oh, I
No,
can
I can hear.
Oh
Yeah.
no, you lost
Good?
me.
Okay, cool.
It's Rob we're losing. Who needs
Uh-oh.
them?
Yeah. What is unfortunate? My question is for Rob. So stay put, Rob.
Uh,
Are they generally are the monks who live here probably know the forest fairly well? Would that be like at least kind of around, or do they really just stay in the compound?
So they have traveled a little bit into the forest. It's kind of odd to say, but they know theoretically what the forest is like around them. Before the sort of the shadows closed in, they were much more often out in the forest, and they have maps of things. They know roughly sort of directions and where things are. They probably haven't had a person actually out in the forest in over a year, or
Okay.
deep into the forest anyway. That said, you look at the people who are gathering, and you get just the sense that these are not insignificant players here. These are, to use the out-of-game term, high-level characters that are gathering together.
Okay, because Gildy does not really care all that much about joining a party to find the heart, but she would care about like if the people there are actually capable of moving through the forest, since she is an expert in the forest, right? So
they would not move as swiftly through the forest as you do. That said, given the mention of spells and that sort of thing, you figure they also probably have other resources they can use.
okay, so I think what Gildy will do is, so she's eyeing these people who are gathering, and she's like, they seem pretty capable. I don't know how frequently they go into the forest, but they seem pretty good. But she'll still go up to the abbot or if they're still in conversation, say, I'm a ranger. As you know, we've interacted. Forgot about that for a second. Scratch that. She says to the abbot, I'm willing to help lead the party to make it smoother going through the forest if you think it's needed. Otherwise, I might stay here.
He sort of, we would love to accept your help. I think that for what we are going to do. Oh, am I frozen again?
Nope.
Nope.
All right. For what we are going to do, we would not need your assistance this time around.
Okay. That's pretty much all Gildy says. Okay, good luck. I'll be here.
Did we lose Rob?
Maybe.
I think we just lost Rob.
He's really mulling that decision.
know.
There we go.
Yes.
It's a rough night.
Yeah.
So,
That's
did you catch any
It's
of that?
Usually,
No.
no. It
Nothing
was my reaction of saying, "Okay, I'll stay here," and nothing from
And
me.
there we are again.
Uh-oh.
Oh dear.
Hello.
Okay, so yes, they think that they will be do well enough with sort of the resources they have.
Okay, I'll
Jeez.
stay here then.
Sorry about this, guys.
It's okay.
You're pretty clear
Happens
right
to the
now.
best of us.
All right. Hopefully it doesn't continue on too much. Yeah, so they will accept Leon, given that Leon has. The rest of you, are you going to try to?
Give it that Leon.
Given Leon has the stone,
Oh, okay.
that they
The
will
stone,
definitely.
okay.
except Leon
So
with the group.
Leon with the stone are going to go on her own, but the rest of us may not be comfortable with that.
No,
So
but
Torok would not be comfortable with Leon going out on her own
Mm.
on this. And so Torok would also talk to Mint and say, I am really concerned with Leon going on her own with a group of strangers, regardless of how.
a group of strange clerics.
Yes.
Clerics and wizards, yes.
We don't know if we can trust all of them.
I thought Talon was coming though too. Yeah, so it's,
So Leon isn't going completely alone because Talon will be going as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the conversation went. The Talon said that I feel like that I need to be a part of this, and the Abbot said, you know, it's not necessary. You have nothing to do with this. And Talon's like, we need to talk. So I guess we haven't really resolved it. But Talon's intention is fully to go.
yeah.
And Rob looks sleepy. Oh, there you go. Rob, I think we lost you.
Yeah, this is probably gonna mess up the stream. I'm gonna try switching internet connections. Just give me 1 sec. Sorry.
Okay. We're all gonna shift.
Up.
No, I'm not moving.
You have no choice.
No,
The Archmage has commanded it.
no. I didn't get to learn my spells. I'm not moving. The line must be drawn here.
Leon, you can change your mind and decide to stay here and study.
Yeah.
No, the deity has provided me with an item to search for her heart. I feel that I must go.
And Torok kind of has a feeling of responsibility in this, and he offers to the abbot to go with and provide Leon with protection,
Okay.
regardless of the fact he's at 1/3 hit points. But
Well, they will heal you up to full if you're going for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
are we
don't-
all doing this?
I don't need protection.
I don't know if they want to take.
Guilty was going to say, but yeah, I got the impression they didn't want to take all of us.
They would have to take extra people, which is not necessarily a bad thing if they want to take you, because the spell that they were going to use is Windwalk, which allows people to move at speed of 300, but it only carries 10 people at a time. Well, the cast plus 10 people. So if they were going to take the group as an extra, they would probably need an extra person who could cast Windwalk to come along.
Leon takes a moment to just suggest that may be the best idea. We don't know what all will be waiting for us.
All right.
So having more people would be helpful. I just didn't want to assume or presume that anyone would come along in your injured state.
All right. All right. Well, then get yourselves ready and grab what you need to grab. We'll be heading out shortly.
Okay, gear
This
up.
means that. This means I don't get to finish my sleep then.
No, we'll say that for the sake of, since the previous day was not a particularly rough day, that you were able to get in sort of a full long rest, and not that you sort of had anything that you needed to recover from anyway. But yes, you will be healed up to full and are otherwise, rested enough to go out on an adventure.
Yay, adventure.
Adventure.
Torok, I blame you.
yeah, okay.
And how much time do we have between, to do the preparing?
He's probably giving you like a couple of minutes.
Okay. Well, then Leon takes the opportunity and does approach the 3 individuals that she has not embraced yet, and will embrace them unless, of course, they do not wish to be embraced. Basically, like kneeling down on one knee to embrace Gildy and Miniset.
Okay.
By Mint's face, I imagine it's a hand on the shoulder, and the plan was also to just be like, Miniset, I know that you don't like me very much, and I'm not sure exactly why, but I just wanted to say that I do appreciate you.
She's in a very touchy-feely mood this evening. I would just go with it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mint's
when
just kind of
Leon-
like, okay. Mint is
Gildy
in full
accepts the
armor
hug.
because she ran outside in full armor.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of weird to hug in full armor.
Gildy accepts the hug and hugs Leon back, and she says, "That was some quick thinking. Good work."
Oh, thank you. I did, after this adventure, I do have something. I've come to a decision, and I do have something that I wish to share with all of you.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So you run back to your room, gather anything else that you didn't already have, and peer back. So there are now roughly 20 some odd, well, we'll say about 20 to be a nice even number, people that have gathered together. And you know, again, you've all been healed up to full. That's been taken care of. And yes, there will be sort of a couple people who will start casting. There's not very many people here who can cast Windwalk, given that it's a druid spell. But it is something that some of the more learned members who have learned sort of spells from other arenas are able to take care of.
Head out. Gildy's gonna like grab one of the people who are not going and say to them, "Make sure my kid Morgan does not leave while I'm gone."
All right. Are you bringing the life stone?
I think we should bring both with us because we already know that there's people here we can't trust.
Until we know the monastery is secure. Yeah.
And I mean, at this point, Talon had put the life stone into the bag of holding and glowed as a result. So Leon has definitely not touched it. It is still in the bag of holding until someone else takes it out. So Leon is not glowing.
Yep.
All right. Talon, one of the people coming is your old instructor in the ways of the monk arts. Her name is Leiko. And for the rest of you, you probably notice a bit of a sort of, she'll approach Talon and sort of have a quick conversation with them about, how they've been. Again, they're a bit of an odd-looking person. Gildy, you would have seen some genasi before. In fact, there's a couple others that are around here. But she is an air genasi, which means she sort of floats around. There always seems to be a bit of a sort of a buffer of air around her. Her hair sort of seems to float. Her clothes ruffle. She is sort of pale blue skin, pale blue hair, some dark blue eyes, and very slender, very fit, and sort of dressed in loose clothing. Very much seems like very capable, very well-formed, sort of chiseled muscles for the ones that you can see. Doesn't necessarily look like she'd be particularly strong, but looks like wiry and tough and capable and able to take care of herself. And she's one of the ones who will be coming with you as well. So the spell is cast. You feel your body sort of slowly disintegrate into a gaseous form. And you all sort of rise up into the air together, this sort of cloud of 20 odd people, and then start very quickly, again, it's flying speed of 300, just sort of zipping through the air in the direction that the stone had indicated before you all turned to mist, and sort of otherwise hoping that perhaps you'll see something and catch up with Gerbo quick enough.
Who has that tier, like that stone, like who has that right now?
Leo.
Okay.
Dash action. Reverting takes 1 minute. Wow.
Yeah, it's good times.
Yeah. So you quickly come across a scene, and sort of the spell starts to disperse as you're sort of lowering to the ground, because what you saw was again it's still night. It's still it's maybe about an hour until dawn or so. So maybe some of the east is sort of starting to go a little bit lighter. And I guess saw is not quite the wrong word. What you sort of felt was this rush of something moving past you. And sort of disturbing the cloud that you were in. And perhaps the casters have decided they wanted to sort of at least pause and check what's going on here, or at least check and see if the stone has changed directions. They're sort of landing everybody in the shadow forest. It is dark as you sort of slowly form back into yourselves. You're standing sort of bits and pieces around, again, the big trees and the gnarled roots that are everywhere around you. And what you sort of sense as you come back to yourself is something, some creature was just sort of within you or nearby you. It felt very strange. Leon, if you're looking at the stone,
Yep.
It had been pointing pretty much almost directly north. Now it is pointing east.
Okay. I let everybody know.
All right.
Quietly, but I let everybody know.
And there's sort of a quick, just search this particular area, see if there's anything here. Luckily, a bunch of the people do have dark vision. If there's anybody who has light, there's a bunch of light spells popping up all over the place.
Because of how weird that felt, Mint is definitely checking her equipment to make sure nothing is disturbed.
Yep.
Leon is once again basically going to make like a piece of thread that glows in the 5 feet and ties it around Torok's ankle so that if we ever need to move stealthily, he can see his feet to not trip in the darkness, but it's low and not very bright so that he won't then be a beacon of, hello, come and attack me.
Although,
yeah. And sort of very quickly, some people come, you get called over to one area. There's a bit of a clearing, and it's not even so much like a natural clearing, but there's sort of enough space between large trees that the underbrush here seems to have been trampled down. There was something happened here. And one of the things that sort of somebody picks up is, it's hard to see in the night. They're holding something in their hand, but it almost looks like they're holding a piece of shadow that sort of seems to be wisping around them. And they're sort of talking with some people as you get closer and saying that they're fairly certain this is the scale from a shadow dragon.
Okay.
And they're not quite sure what happened here, but given what they've been told about the heart heading east, and that doesn't necessarily make any sense. They were sort of assuming that since it's been heading north before, the Gerber was trying to make it out of the shadow forest. But now that's heading east, that's not really out. It's not necessarily deeper in, but sort of parallel to the edge of the forest. And they're thinking maybe something happened here. There's a fight. Maybe there was a shadow dragon that attacked Gerbo. They're not quite sure. But Gildy, if you want to give me, actually, and Torok as well, you both survival people, if you want to give me a survival check to try and figure out sort of what you can tell from the tracks and the trampling and that sort of thing.
Can we make an investigation check?
You can make an investigation check. DC would probably be a little bit higher than a survival.
Ooh, that's a
I'm okay with
19.
this.
All right.
and
So
17
19,
from
17, and 11. Okay. So definitely, Gildy, you get a decent sense for what happened here and sort of what some of the fallout was. You can't quite tell whether there was a shadow dragon. If there was, maybe you think it was more of an aerial fight. But definitely there were several people here. You actually find a couple of dead bodies of animals, some of the shadow wolves that you in the far distant past had encountered in the shadow forest. And you can't quite tell if Gerbo was here specifically. It's hard to find sort of those very small footprints, but something very large was here, sort of stomping around. And so something very large, and many different things were here. There was a large group of creatures here, and they very clearly went east. And according to the stone, Gerbo went with them, or the heart went with them, one of the two.
Okay, so I relay everything that I can kind of pick up from just looking around to everybody else.
Okay. The force sort of quickly decides that they will proceed. They don't think they're that far behind, so at this point they're going to sort of proceed carefully on foot, because it's sort of a little harder to otherwise, again, going back and forth into the windwalk spell is a little awkward. So yes, they're going to proceed carefully on foot. They're more than happy to have Gildy, you lead them sort of down this path. Again, once they notice it, it is fairly sort of clear and obvious that there's sort of a trodden path that several large creatures sort of went this way. But yeah, they start following Gildy as you travel through the forest.
Oh, sorry. Quick question as I'm looking
Yes.
at my character sheet. You mentioned that everyone who was going with them would be full healed?
Yes.
Yes? So we have
Yes.
full hit points? Okay.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yep. All right.
Leon will take a position beside Torok and just kind of give him any details that he might need, in addition to, like, basically to try and compensate for his lack of being able to see.
Yeah, Torok is appreciative. It's one of those, yeah, it's a downside.
Ooh, I do have this for my natural explorer. While tracking creatures, you learn their exact number, their sizes, and how long ago they passed through the area.
All right. So you learn that information, and I will pass that along really quickly. I'm just finding some other icons here, but yes, there were. So yes, it's the exact number.
Mm-hmm. It's the number, sizes, and how long ago.
Number, sizes, and how long. I need to look that up. One moment. Okay, so I believe 2 large creatures. We'll say like 5 medium-sized creatures. And you get the sense that maybe there's more than that, but that they're not necessarily leaving tracks that you can trace.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how long ago?
How long ago? It's probably only been like 15 minutes and has not been that long.
Okay.
You guys caught up relatively quickly. Yes. So you are traveling through the forest. I'll use that one. Oh no, can't use that one. You, because of Gildy, are making quite good time in some of your movements. Apologies. And you figure you're starting to get close. You can actually start to hear creatures moving through the forest ahead of you. What would you like to do?
So I think once it got to the point where I could hear them, I would kind of like slow everyone down and quietly I don't know, like gesture towards where it sounds like they're coming from. Presumably the rest of them can hear as well, so I don't need to be like telling them what's there. But Gildy would draw her weapon and propose to the group that just kind of turning to everyone and say, I can be invisible in the dark. Let me go ahead and see what's up. And then assuming nobody had a problem with that.
Ellen nods.
Yeah, for the others in the group, they're like, if you are feeling okay to take that risk, then yes, feel free to move ahead, and we will wait for your return.
Okay. Cool. So Gildy engages her umbral sight, which does that, and so she goes invisible, and then slowly approaches where she hears the sounds coming from to see what she can see.
Okay. So yeah, you can move relatively quickly. You catch up there, sort of trudging through the forest. Yeah, they're not really trying to hide. You don't necessarily need to make a perception check. So what you see is there is a large, sort of the one that stands out the most, a large sort of shadow beast that you have not seen before. You could potentially make a check to see if it's something you've heard of or otherwise might be familiar with. But yeah, they're sort of large and hulking. They've got these big sort of claws that are coming out from their hands. You're still only seeing the back of them. But under one arm, it has what looks to be an unconscious Gerbo. There's also some things you have seen before. There is a rider on a horse. There are 4 shadow wolves that are sort of stalking around this group. Some of them look a little bit wounded. And probably 6 or so just sort of semi-ethereal shadows that are sort of flitting in and out. You're having trouble counting them because they sort of just mix with the darkness and then sort of appear for a little bit, and otherwise sort of are moving along with the group.
Okay. I would like to do a check if I've heard about that big creature before.
All right.
So what's that, like history?
You can give me history. Arcana would be probably more accurate, but you can try history. It would just be a sort of a higher DC.
Okay, well, I had something else that was interesting here. Like actually reading my character sheet for once, because where is it? When you make an intelligence or wisdom check related to your, well, I guess this is not related to my terrain, it's related to the creature.
Mm.
Okay, well, I'll just do a history check.
All right.
I'm much better in history than Arcana.
Ten. All right. Yeah. Unfortunately, you don't think you've heard of this particular type of thing before.
Okay. Cool. So, seeing all that, I'm going to go back to the group, and I'm going to describe the scene that I saw, and all of like specifically like the number of creatures, and just kind of say there's this one large shadowy beast. It was very strange. I haven't seen it before, but it was carrying Gerbo, and Gerbo was not conscious, so I don't think that it is his choice to be going with these creatures here.
Oh, okay. That is definitely an interesting turn of events. But actually, the sort of the abbot did not actually come with you with this group, but sort of one of the others steps up, and sort of the leader for this expedition. It's like that could make sense actually, given if there are other forces that are aware that the heart is at large, they might be seeking to obtain it for themselves. And it definitely seems like there is an awareness within this forest that might have caught wind of the heart being outside of the temple and have attacked Gerbo to have obtained it. So that could be very likely.
And I'm also going to say in response, based on what we have seen before with the shadows and what they're doing in this forest, I feel very strongly that we need to make sure the heart doesn't fall into their hands.
How big of a force was it?
There was one large shadow beast who was carrying Gerbo. There was a rider on a horse. There were 4 wolves, and then there were a number of ethereal shadows that I was having trouble counting, but about 6 of them.
All right. Yes, then definitely we should approach with caution, but otherwise I believe we have superior numbers. We should be able to overtake them and take the heart back without too much trouble. We shall see.
Yeah, Gildy nods, but she also says, caution is at the heart of victory, so let's be careful here.
Can we make a Arcana check based on her description of these creatures?
Sure. It's going to be a little bit harder because you're going off secondhand description, but yeah, give me a roll. Someday
I'll roll higher than a 10. Someday.
Yes. We'll say that you've heard sort of rumors and legends of something like this. That,
Or I did some research. I did some research about the Shadow Forest before we went in the first time.
Yes.
So maybe I read something about it then.
Yeah. You think, given the description, it is a shadow render.
Lovely.
Essentially known for tearing people apart.
All right. I relay this to everyone.
Gildy
Yes.
nods and is like, Gerbo was certainly whole when I saw him.
So it's clearly under someone's orders.
Yes. And yeah, the others you are more familiar with. You've encountered some of them before, sort of various bits and different pieces, and so you're at least aware of sort of what they are like.
Leon takes a moment to give the entire group kind of a quick and dirty, rundown of okay, so this creature can do this and this and this and this, and this one can do this and this and this, and this one can do this and this and this and this, and this one tears you apart. Since I know the least about that one, now that it's next.
All right. So the group sort of gets ready. Most of them actually don't have weapons, but some of them get out weapons, and they start to move forward. At this point, there's sort of less of a need to try and go quietly, since the whole purpose is to sort of rush this group and attack them. Who is in the lead?
I make a suggestion to Torok and Talon. If the two of you wish to engage the render and get it to drop Gerbo, then I suggest I could run in, grab Gerbo, and get out. So that at least we will have Gerbo, and then can potentially beat a retreat if we need to do so.
And what if Gerbo doesn't have the heart?
I'm on mute. But yes, that's basically what I was saying.
Is the heart still ahead of us?
So why would they have Gerbo with them? Being carried by a shadow render who tears people apart, and yet they're carrying Gerbo. Why would they be carrying Gerbo unless because they're using him as a bag in which to carry the heart?
Is the stone still telling you the heart is ahead of us?
Yes.
Okay.
right?
So, yes. And then what I can do is, if you get the creature to drop Gerbo, I will remove him from the battle and then confirm whether or not the heart is there.
Talon
All
says,
right.
okay.
All right. Give me 1 sec. I'm just setting up this potential battle scene. We'll see how things play out. Sure, you look nasty. We'll stick you in there.
Did you want to take a quick break while we set up the battle scene?
That might not be a bad idea. Let's take a quick early break. And I'll set this up. We'll see if there's actually a fight here or not. But since we're sort of heading in that direction, and I was not necessarily prepared for this, I'm almost there. I was semi-prepared for this, but yeah, we'll need a quick moment. So let's say 10 minutes. We'll be back, and we shall see what happens. We'll see you then.
Okay.
Hello and welcome back. Hopefully we are now prepared for things that are going to happen. Yes, I know. Okay, so as the group gets ready and prepares and begins their charge through the forest, who is in the lead? Which I'm assuming Gildy is sort of guiding things a little bit. Or is anybody up front with Gildy?
Sure.
I very much am that character.
And Turok will be up near the front.
All
But
right.
he needs definitely near someone who's casting light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of light, these are shadow creatures, so we know that
Yes.
they're weaker when we shine light at them. Who still has light things? Like Leon had a bunch.
I have a globe.
Yeah, one of them was given to Torok. I don't know if Torok still has that or if Torok
I would assume so, yeah.
to Leon.
Now, Turok would still have it if he's got it and would trigger it as soon as the moment was appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think Talon would have brought the drift globe out yet, or at this moment, because there's other people who were casting light. He can see. He figures people who can't normally see can see well enough. And right now, even though we're not trying to be stealthy, we're also not trying to draw obvious attention of, hey, here they come.
Mhm.
All right.
I think
So-
Gildy would suggest because we want to light up as many of them as possible, but only once we're in combat, and it's like, okay, not a surprise that we're there anymore. So Gildy would probably suggest after the first round, or after
Yeah.
in game, after a minute or two, once the fighting has started, that the people who have the light objects maybe try to light them up to shine and weaken the creatures.
Okay. So, you're moving through the forest. Gildy, you get to the place where you had seen them previously, but they have, of course, you went back and they've been a little bit of preamble before this, so they've moved on to that from that place. You charge a little bit further, and you get to essentially you get to another one of those sort of cleared paths. So when you came to the last one of these, it was when the rider was sort of coming at you, sort of as you approached the previous dome of shadows. But you definitely come across one of those, and it looks like their path has continued across it. And actually, give me an intelligence check. Seven. Yep. You are completely consumed in this moment of preparing for battle. Nothing sort of sinks in with this. You keep charging forward, and you're brought up a little short as you sort of get to the edge of, again, it's not really clearing, but to where you can start to see these beings, and you're sort of getting ready to attack, but what you see is the group next to a dome, and 2 extra people have joined them. In the heat of the moment, you can give me an Arcana check to see if you can identify what these 2 extra people are.
I might as well. I'm not great with Arcana. One thing I will mention in case it is relevant with my natural explorer from being a ranger, even when I am engaged in another activity while traveling through my favorite terrain, I remain alert to danger. If that is
Yes.
relevant.
In this case, it wasn't
Okay.
being alert to danger that was the big thing. It was realizing you were approaching another dome, essentially.
Oh, I see. Okay. You said Arcana, right?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right. That's not quite the natural one we were hoping for strange things with, but that is still pretty bad. So all you know is there's 2 extra people out here. They don't look particularly healthy. And are you just going to charge into combat, or are you going to hold up a little bit, seeing that the dome is there?
Ooh, that is a great question. Gildy does not want to go into another dome if it can be helped. So she's gonna kind of halt everyone far enough away that they can't see, and kind of turn around and at least to, like, this group, point out the dome, and then if the guys who are joining us, if they don't know what it is, then Gildy's going to kind of go through a quick explanation of how terrible it is.
Before you can quite get there, you stop and you put your arms out, and the couple people with you stop, but you realize in that moment as you stop that you have not been quiet. You have been quiet. But this group is a large group. They have not been quiet as they go through the forest. And even as you're sort of looking ahead of this group, but also trying to stop people, you can see one of the new people sort of turn their head and look directly at you.
Yikes. So, okay, my Arcana check was bad, but can I tell if it's like a shadow creature like the wolves or the beast versus a
it is very clearly
humanoid?
Not a sort of is not giving off any sort of shadow essence. It looks to be a humanoid, just sort of very pale.
Would I have does it look like one of the people who were sickened and poisoned by the shadows?
The corrupted? No, they were sort of had shriveled up skin and were a little shrunken. This he's actually a little bit pretty. Okay. But just sort of very pale, sort of long dark hair. But otherwise looking quite healthy.
Okay. And it's looking right at us?
Pretty much, yep.
Huh.
And in that moment of indecision, as the rest of the group sort of comes to a bit of a halt at this point, you can see and hear a little bit of that individual sort of quickly calling out to their group to essentially get inside the dome.
Okay. So then Gildy is Gildy's gonna rush forward and shoot an arrow at the shadow renderer that's carrying Gildo.
All right. Give me a D20 roll, just straight D20 roll, not an attack.
Okay.
Actually, we're going to make it an initiative check, but not for everybody, just between you and essentially the one there to see which one of you is going first and how this is rolling out.
Initiative or just D20?
Initiative.
Okay. Because I'm really good at initiative.
Yep. I'm aware of that. All right.
Nice.
Yes, you go first. All right, so you rush ahead. You fire at the shadow render. I believe that is a natural 1. That's my one for damage, though.
That is a natural one for damage, yeah.
Not quite the same. All right, but 27 and 25.
Oh no, the last
no,
it
the
is
last attack.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh, it is
the
a
last
20.
attack. Yeah.
Oh,
It is.
great!
But Gildy is
no.
a halfling. Gildy is a halfling and therefore lucky and gets to reroll ones.
Well,
Thank
in
you,
this
Dee.
case,
Oh.
since it's game specific, I'm going to unfortunately negate the halfling luck.
Okay.
But don't worry, it's not horrible.
Okay, if you say so.
So you fire 3 times. The first 2 definitely seem to hit and sink in well. Oh yeah. Woof. Yeah, definitely hit well. And the last one, you fumble the bow a little bit. It doesn't feel like it went off right. You're fairly certain that you're going to miss entirely, but after the first 2 hit, the creature sort of turns around a little bit, and you actually hit it sort of right in the eye. You don't hit like Cinder Mass where you were aiming for, but you hit it right in the eye. So yes, you can turn that natural 1 into a natural 20.
That was one of the options.
So
Yep.
you were
Wow.
lucky.
So that was one of the options. Is it becomes a natural 20. Also,
Sweet.
in that strange moment, and maybe this is some weird effect of the shadow forest, your hair catches on fire,
Ouch.
but then is immediately doused by some sort of, as if a bucket of water had just been dumped over your head.
Can we start calling her Baldy?
Okay.
It's only just singed a little bit because the water got there relatively quickly. But yeah, the strange thing happened. You hit really well when you didn't think you were going to. Then immediately your hair catches on fire when you were doused out by a big bucket of water and you're soaked.
Okay, so Gildy says, huh? Ah! Ah!
Okay. So, that's,
Min just kind of scratches her head, going, "What
yeah.
just happened?"
Oh yeah. So you do 10 and 11 damage. Are the first 2 hits. This is a magical bow too, because I think that's important. Yep. And then the last one, you will actually add your. Is that added in with the extra dice? Yes, it is.
Got,
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's
Um,
got the extra from the Dread Ambusher.
Yes. So the roll another 2d8 on top of that.
Cool boy.
So it'll be 13 plus. Yeah, give me. Well, so 25 additional damage. Nice.
Nice.
All right. This creature had taken probably, it looks like a little bit of damage before. That said, even with all of that, it's still up. It hasn't gone down. But it sort of staggers back and what is its? Yeah, it drops Gerbo.
Sweet.
Nice.
All
Okay,
right.
so then once Guilty sees that, she like yells at Torok or a Talon, like, "Go get him!"
All right. Now we're going to roll initiative for everybody. You can keep yours.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm just going to assume no one's going to. Well, I'm not going to. I shouldn't assume anything. Somebody might get higher than a 26, I suppose. But okay. So I'm going to just make some notes of these. So we have. Actually, I'm just going to roll for them. Okay.
Yes, it's not Torah.
And
All right, I like Jacob's description.
Oops.
I did well on initiative for once.
I did not do well.
no.
No,
All right. So
But-
that's.
we have a 4, a 5, and a 5.
Is my hair on fire and getting dusted?
No, it was just going to be the first one. That's all that happened. It was a strange, weird little magical quirk in the Shadow Forest.
Yeah, all the rest of us are just like, what the? What?
We're tagging. Punch, punch, punch.
Okay. And for. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to sort of not necessarily write these down really quickly because this might end up being a relatively quick event. We'll see. But who got, other than Gildy, and above a 20?
I think the rest of us, other than Mint, are below 10.
Okay.
No, I got 16.
Okay.
So 16, 19, 4, 5, and 5. Okay. That's interesting because pretty much everybody else rolled low except for a couple as well. Mint, what would you like to do?
I feel encouraged and emboldened by the amazing shots that were made by Hildy. I'm not as close to the front as the others, but if the dragon's in range, I would like to let loose an arrow or two.
The render?
Yep.
Now, I will remind you, Gerbo is on the ground.
Yep. But the render's
You've
still
got the
moving,
boots.
right?
Yes. You
Yeah.
do have boots of, swiftness.
Oh, meaning I could probably go grab Gerbo. Knowing that the order was given to either Talon or to Torok, I could help them out with my speed, grab Gerbo, and bring them to one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know I'm not supposed to carry him off, but if I can secure him, I could do that. That is a good point.
Yeah, you could carry him back if you can. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a bit of a map here together, and currently you are 45 feet away from where Gerbo was dropped.
Yeah, and I can move at 60. So I could get him part of the way back and closer, and then just stand in a defensible position after I've moved back. So yeah, I'll move up. I'll grab Gerbo quickly, and then I'll move back to, and place Gerbo between myself and Torok and Talon. So I'll be protecting Gerbo from the creatures.
All right, so you use your action to grab Gerbo, but you got your speed, which you can use an extra dash action. So your move plus a dash action is 60, so you can bring him back.
But he's going to also slow me down because he'll end up hitting my encumbrance level, so I'll be moving back at regular speed to get back towards Talon and Torok. So I can kind of drag him back and move at regular speed while doing that.
Okay, so I'm gonna put you. Oops. So 45 to get there. Then you have an extra 15, which was you're moving half speed. So you'd essentially make it 5. So, Okay. Doing that, being very brave as you are, I'm going to need more dice.
Ridiculously brave. Borderline stupid.
Yeah. What's your AC at the moment?
My AC should be 16. I will double check that though. Yep, 16.
It's kind of an evening of stupidity and heroism.
Oddly enough, given we're not going to bring up the map yet, but just sort of given how creatures were placed, you are provoking some attacks of opportunity. But given exactly how it worked out, you're only provoking one, which is very strange, and they missed.
Oh, that's fun.
So you actually ran between two of them to grab Gerbo, but you didn't actually leave their threatened space, and you haven't left it yet. So
there is one other thing that I could do to help defend myself is I haven't drawn a weapon yet. If I draw my rapier, my AC goes up to 18.
It doesn't matter. They rolled a 2 to hit. They missed you, so.
Oh, yes!
Just double check their plus 2 hit is not
they swing
plus, high. 12 or 13. It isn't, so yeah, you're good. So you are currently trapped between 2 shadow wolves, one on either side of you. But you have taken Gerbo a little bit away from the shadow render, and you are pretty much amidst the enemy. They were just about to head into this dome, but now no longer have the thing that they were trying to get. Okay, Talon, I will let you go next, and depending on how this works out, we'll see if we are going to engage in the rest of the combat or not.
Right.
Because you can also move quickly.
Yes, not as quickly. My speed is only 40, and so at this point...
No, but you can take a dash action as a bonus.
It's true, I can. All right, so...
And for reference, you are 30 feet away from Mint, which, yeah.
Okay. All right, so I can move up to 60 if I do that. So I will do that. So feel bad leaving Mint if this is the way it works out, but Talon would almost like in a passing way would run, try to take Gerbo from Mint, and then turn and dash back.
You're very big. They're both gnomes. You could
Oh, if I
probably
could pick
try to
both
take
up, I would
I was
totally
gonna say,
do
why
that.
not just?
Yeah, if I could do that.
All right.
Underlow gnome.
Give me a strength check.
Oh.
It is not a high one,
Well, that's encouraging.
but just to see how well you sort of quickly bundle them up with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ooh.
These are
Nice.
gnomes. No problem.
Right.
One under each arm. And no, it does slow you a little bit, actually, or unless you have the you've got the Goliath trait of being particularly large, don't you?
yes.
So they're well within your carrying capacity. So do you provoke attacks of opportunity? You get to about there. Yes, you'll provoke 2. But I think both of those are going to miss.
I like that. My AC is 16.
Yeah, highest of those was a 14.
Sweet.
So yeah, you grab both of them and run back. And here's where I'm going to sort of put a bit of a pause in. The depending on sort of how things were rolled, there could potentially be a couple people going next.
Mhm.
Actually, you know what? No. So you hear one of the group that's with you. They're sort of close up to the front now that sort of everyone sort of has arrived. Do you need to be touching? I need to quickly look up a spell. 1 sec.
All right.
Come on. Yes,
Too
yes,
bad we didn't
yes.
prepare this, but it would be ideal to have done all this, got Gerbo, and gotten Gerbo in a position that would kind of make Gerbo perpendicular to where they are, to be able to look at Leon and be like, did the stone just turn?
Yeah, no, as long as they can see you, they can teleport with you. So they pretty much, shout to the rest of their group, I'm going to take this group back. Come back however you can, and we're otherwise leaving you here. And your entire group, 6 of you, plus Gerbo is 7, and 1 other, get whisked away, and you are now just outside the Temple of the Archmage.
Wow.
I was wondering if we could avoid that combat. Actually, I'm gonna give one thing a potential to happen. Nope, he doesn't even really have a ranged attack to do anything with. Nope. So yeah, there was 2 people who had the same initiative. One was that wizard, one was the enemy, but they didn't necessarily have a ranged attack to attack with. They were gonna otherwise try and attack that wizard, but nope, that didn't happen. You are back at the temple. You have no idea what's going to happen to the rest of your group, but you are back at the temple.
All right. I think the first thing you need to do is confirm that Gerbo has the heart on him.
Yes.
You know what it looks like, and you know what sort of Gerbo put it in sort of a box in his satchel.
Yep.
And you sort of rummage around in the satchel and you find the box.
And I presume Turok is glowing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talon will open the box just enough to confirm that the heart is there, but not necessarily like wide open.
Yeah, and you sort of open it, and there's that movie special effect of light pouring out on your face. What the rest of you see is it's not sort of bright, orange or white light. It's almost sort of a rainbow. It's this, you can actually almost see like ethereal flames coming out from the side of the box as this sort of kaleidoscope of colors plays over Talon's face.
Totally Pulp Fiction.
I was exactly.
Gildy says, Maybe keep that closed.
Yeah. Close it back and just feel like Talon's got like a look. It's not a smile, but just a like, like, we got it.
Okay. Gildy is going to check if Gerbo is alive.
Gerbo is alive. Is actually Gerbo alive? Give me 1 sec. Gerbo was unconscious. I'm going to see if Gerbo made their death saving throws. 1 moment. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, it's 2 and 2.
Uh-oh.
Come on, Gerbo, you can do it.
Gerbo is alive.
Yay.
Okay.
Gerbo is unconscious but alive.
Okay. Gildy is going to bind his hands and feet before he wakes up.
When Gildy starts doing this, Leon pulls out her manacles and manacles his hands.
You are led into the temple and are on the temple grounds. And yeah, you're all sort of feeling like this, jittery excitement. You were just about to attack this, group, and there was the shadows and the dome, and and now you're just calm and peaceful. And dawn is like, starting to make the sky just a little bit brighter in the east.
All right. Well, if there isn't anything else we're doing, I'm going to go back to studying.
Having been kind of turned into mist and back again once more, Mint is again checking all of her gear and items just to make sure everything's solid in the way it was before all this started.
Yeah.
Well, would we come back the same way, or do we just teleport back?
You just teleported directly back.
Yeah.
What part of it?
Oh, so it wasn't mist this time. It was a different effect.
The first time was Windmock. This was a straight teleportation.
Well, that's different.
Yeah.
So Gildy looks at the box with the heart in it and says, "What do we do with it now?"
I assume we bring it to the temple.
Yes, give it back to the abbot.
Yep. And actually, even as sort of you had to wait a moment for the gates to open, and as you enter, the abbot probably comes sort of rushing out of the temple. It's like, you have not been gone that long, but you have Gerbo with you. Where's the rest of the group?
They stayed because we were teleported back.
Oh. And are they in danger?
Combat had just started, so maybe it sounded like the enemies were about to retreat to safety, so not sure if they're going to continue retreating or if they're going to try to stand their ground.
I feel confident that a number of clerics could take on what we were facing.
They did seem very capable.
Yes. And do you have the heart?
Yeah, and Talon kind of just, again, like, actually, Talon's not going to open it. Talon has the box and basically just going to very carefully kind of like reach out the box, offering it to the abbot.
And the abbot will sort of take it reverently and just curious, sort of opens it up, and you see the same effect.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because Leon would just basically like hold up the teardrop that like follows the box to make it clear where it's like, oh, it's in there. No need to check. It's clearly in there.
Yes. Move it around the box. Look how it moves around the box. And you close the box and like, thank you so much. We need to find perhaps an even better place to put this, but I will make sure this is safe. And he moves into the temple at that point, and you are sort of left sort of in the yard, sort of still a little sort of fidgety, wondering how the others are doing.
Leon suggests if he's finding a safe spot for that, perhaps it would be an equally safe location for something else. Something to ponder. I'm off to study.
There we go. All right.
And I go learn my spells.
All right. Yes, Leon gives you that. Heads off back into the temple to do their work. The rest of you, other than waking up early, you're definitely, it's like you've had sort of, super dose of caffeine. You're very awake right now. You were just ready for a fight and have been whisked away. What would you like to do with the newly dawning morning?
What time is it approximately?
It's fall. Dawn would be about 8-ish. Yeah, we'll say it's a little earlier than that. We'll say it's about like 7-ish. Sun's not quite up yet.
Gildy's
we did
very
all that.
concerned about the rest of the group, and so very much like a fretting mother, she's just gonna kind of hang out near the gate and like fiddle with her equipment or whatever, just kind of waiting for them to get back.
All right. They do return not long later. Some of them looking a little the worse for wear. I was just looking up sort of what other spells could they potentially have that would get them out of there. And luckily, clerics do have a decent 6th level spell they can use. They can use Word of Recall. And the sanctuary would be the place that they would most likely have designated as their recall location. So, yeah, they use that. So that's 9 and 6 is 15. There's 19 of you. No. Yes, 19 of you. I'll have 3 of them. So we'll say yes, between 2 different clerics that they were able to get everyone back. Again, some of them looking a little damaged, and they sort of recount to you as they sort of come inside that there was a bit of a fight. They wanted to sort of make sure that these creatures were not otherwise going to try to follow immediately on if they had any way to do so. So they wanted to sort of wait and see what these people would do. Some fled into the dome. Others came out to attack. Some were undead and able to be dispersed, but others were not. And there was a little bit of exchange, but overall they were able to beat them off and get them to flee into the dome and able to return at that point. So yes, everyone is back safely. You have the heart back at the temple, and you have a day ahead of you.
I think I'm going to start off the morning doing 2 things. 1, working on my experimental elixir for the day, and 2, based on some of the stuff that I've had in my vision so far with Mridu. I'm going to start, because the last one that I had specifically, she spoke the words believe.
Yes.
So I think from now on, if I have the chance, I'm going to spend the first 15 to 30 minutes of each day, starting today, kind of just sitting, meditating, thinking about her image in the visions that I have, trying to call to her. And that's how I'll start, because I think Jacob would have had the realization that if this is someone who he saw when he was when she was dead, there's no reason perhaps why he couldn't see her now instead of having to talk to someone else. So that's my morning. So I'll do the experimental elixir and meditation.
All right. As you're meditating, you sort of are you familiar with meditating, or is this sort of a semi-new thing for you?
I think it's kind of a new thing.
All right. So
Maybe
yeah, give me a what would be a good check for meditating and centering yourself? Give me a wisdom check.
Wisdom, you say?
Yeah.
What is my wisdom? Oh, goody.
All right.
It was a valiant first effort.
Yeah, you're not exactly sure how to do this. Part way through, there's a couple monks that come over and sort of like, are you trying to meditate? You seem a little unsettled. Maybe we can help you with this. They give you some pointers on how to clear your mind and seek for peace inside. And after that, it goes a little bit smoother, but overall you don't feel any sort of great connection through it. But there is a moment towards the end where you're not quite sure whether it's you maybe you've almost fell asleep, or just you had this really clear moment of sort of your mind cleared, and you do have this sort of vision that comes to you, and it's the same moment that you saw before with you and Redo, and sort of in this very casual setting up against sort of a fence, where she was telling you that she was dead, only there's no sound. It's completely a visual memory, and you can sort of see the words, that she's saying, I'm dead. But after that, you can't quite hear what she's saying. You can't quite understand what she's saying. She doesn't look upset, and she actually seems to almost feel a little relieved, is the sense that you get from her. You almost get the sense that you must have maybe reacted well to this news in that moment, and sort of she gives you this smile, and that's the sort of the thing that you focus on, is just that smile as you sort of fade back out, and you sort of stumble into reality once again. And you, at that point, just as sort of things are ending, you hear that distant voice of hers once again, just repeating that single word, just repeating believe. So you think maybe this is on the right path.
Cool. Well, I go back. I feel a little balanced with that. I'm gonna have talks for the day, like depending on what everyone else is doing, talking with monks about this, talking about memory things, trying to poke their minds about it, asking them if I should be imbibing great quantities of alcohol to help with this sort of meditative state that I find myself in. I have a jug. It's okay.
Yep. All right. So yes, you start asking around to some monks and sort of inquiring about this. Definitely, they suggest not imbibing great quantities of alcohol if you want to seek a good meditative state.
At least 3 times, I'm going to ask if they're absolutely sure. I've heard of drunken fighters before. I'm pretty sure that's a thing.
And they are aware of that too. They do not believe that those drunken fighters have the greatest clarity of mind. They are quite certain of this, yes. But when you ask about memory, there's... I'm looking at the wrong sheet. There it is. They definitely sort of suggest, if you can tell them more about it, they can do some research in the library. You can come and research for yourself in the library and see if there's anything you can find out. If that is something you would like to do.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into too many details, just that my memory's foggy, cloudy. There's things that I can't piece together, and I'm looking for ways that I can kind of break through that.
Yeah, they definitely suggest meditation. There's some guided meditations they could walk you through, sort of working with one of them to sort of walk you, through some ways that could help, restore memory and that sort of thing. So they'll sit with you and try some of that as well.
Perfect. And the last thing I'll do today is apparently I've created a potion of flight today.
Okay. What else are people doing? Torak, potentially you had been...
Yes. So Torak is still terrified by this, and would probably, if Leon's gone off to do her spell studies, he's not so oblivious he won't notice that this is one of her goals and not to interrupt her goal. But we'll grab Mint and find somebody to talk to about memory restoration, especially as Torak sees it, the unique circumstance of his memories being removed.
And what does Torak think those circumstances are?
In Torak's mind, his memories were removed as punishment. So it's that his memories were physically removed from him. That's Torak's belief. It's in his soul that he believes he was punished for his failure, and removing his past was part of that.
And they will ask, if you're sort of mentioning this to others, sort of in hopes of maybe finding out more, who were you being punished by?
the Torok mentions the buy he doesn't know, but he was punished for failing a young god.
Very interesting. Well, they will try, just very quickly, a sort of a greater restoration spell on you to see if that does anything. And you can feel something. You can sort of feel like it's almost trying to. It's like you're standing in front of a black curtain, and you know that your memories are on the other side, and it feels like there's tugging at the curtain, but it doesn't come down. That spell does not seem to do what's needed to restore your memory, and they suggest they can help you do some research as well. You've got, again, a massive library here that you could do some research and look into things if you would like to search more into what this might have been, and memory loss as punishment and that sort of thing.
Torok will do what he can, but Torok acknowledges that research is probably not his strongest suit, but any help they can provide would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Mint, do you have any research abilities?
In terms of research that may end up helping Torok recover his memory?
Yes.
In terms of Mint, who is a bit more logically minded, would think that there was possibly, if there was this failing of a young god, it might be on record in some culture or some village or some city that there was a failing of a young god, and that the perpetrator or culprit would be described as a big blue dragonborn, and that there may be something historically on record somewhere of this. She wouldn't know how to categorically find it except by stumbling upon it by chance, because I don't think things are really indexed well.
Well, and that's like they can sort of lead you and help you to sort of different areas of the library that might be useful. So we would like to make a research check with advantage.
Okay.
Your ability if you're helping Tor with this.
I think also, like, I'm not sure if I would have gotten word of this, but I'd be willing to kind of work with Torok on this, kind of share my own issues with memory loss and see if we want to work together on it.
So yeah, I'll get this roll first, and then we can sort of maybe go into that. Yep.
In terms of research, am I rolling with history?
No, sorry, this would be investigation.
Oh, investigation. Okay, and I get advantage on this roll?
Yep.
Awesome. So rolling once, rolling twice. I got the same both times, and the answer is no.
Wow.
That's remarkable.
Oh.
Virtual dice and me do not go well.
Mint really isn't good at research.
No.
History, however, if I actually knew where to look, I get a +5 and advantage. So there's that.
Yeah, knowing Mint, you've looked in some books, you're trying to get frustrated, just getting a little sort of agitated, worked up, and Torok's probably more like, it's okay.
She rage quits the research.
Mint gets so annoyed that she's not getting anywhere that she pulls out her little tinkering kit and starts to work on a tiny little clockwork that she fidgets with because it calms her. So she's now relaxing by working with little tiny itty bitty gears.
And it's funny because while this is happening, Torok's pulled out his woodworking kit and is also just working away.
So, yes.
Is this anywhere near the section of the library where Leon is working?
For argument's sake, could it be?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's say
Then-
it is, yes.
Then I think it would be funny if at this point that section of the library gets coated in webbing, and you hear Leon say, that's not quite right.
So now I have to pick webbing out of my clockwork? Oh, I am annoyed.
No. I'm suggesting that like another section, a nearby section of the library suddenly is like full of spider webs.
Oh,
So Jacob, you
Spider webs?
yes, you got wind that Torok and Mint were doing this, and probably a little while later, after you sort of tried your own meditation thing and went through the guided meditation, you sort of told your friends were down in a specific area of the library, and you go down to join them, find them not researching at all, but Torok's woodworking, Mint is tinkering on something, and Leon off in a corner is stuck on a web. How would you like to react to that?
It's an odd activity to do in a library, friends. What's happening here?
Well, Turok is trying not to look at Leon at the webbing. Turok makes a very under the breath comment about it looking like what happens with teenage Dragonborn, and he's just not touching that. But Turok will explain the situation to Jacob about what they were trying to investigate and the failure with the spell.
Yeah, I'm going to be fascinated, and so I go to Turok. Well, I haven't shared with you yet, but Mint knows that I myself suffer from some amnesia of some sort. Perhaps we could work together. I don't know if we're afflicted by the same thing or it's different, but perhaps if we both work together on this, we can figure out what's happened to us.
I am grateful for any help.
Great. And I will give I don't know what your investigation is offhand,
Not
Jacob.
bad.
But if you wanted to try an investigation check with advantage, again, the monks are sort of on hand to sort of help you and lead you to potentially in the right direction of things.
Okay. I think I got this command correct. Nope. Roll. Oh.
See if you can roll better than a 4.
Come on, hit enter. There we go.
Oh, wow.
So if you hover
Yes.
over, I'm pretty sure I did on, yeah, because I rolled a 6 and a 15.
Yep. Wow. Yeah. All right. So, 22. That is very good. So, I'm going to say that for the sake of simplicity, someone has also tried, sort of when you were talking about memory as well, and I was mentioning to some of the monks, someone also tried a greater restoration spell on you, probably to similar effect. Sort of felt like it was trying to do something, but it wasn't really working. So I'm looking for other ways to look into this. Give me any dice roll. I'm looking for an even odd. Even. Okay. It takes you a while. And we'll sort of circle back with Gildy and Talon in just a moment. I'm sure Talon has some things to go over with the abbot. This is after like a good majority of a day of research. You've probably had your lunch down here, especially after sort of some of the other stuff that you've had, and it's probably getting on to almost dinner time by the time you've come across something that actually seems potentially like it might work. And you come across this reference of with Torok's thought about the memory loss being sort of a punishment. You get the sense of, if it's a punishment, maybe it's less of a sort of effect on you as it is sort of an ongoing enchantment. And you sort of find several references to and the thing that potentially sort of sparks some recognition in Torok is the mention of the Fae. You don't know why that sort of sounds right to you, but this sort of axe that you carry always seems to have a bit of a Fae quality to it. And yeah, they could essentially charm people and take away their memories. And you're thinking maybe something like a break enchantment. So a dispel good and evil spell. Spell good and evil, yeah. One of the effects of that is to break an enchantment on somebody. So maybe something like that might work on Torok, or maybe even on you.
Interesting.
So how many hours has that been that they've been researching, would you say?
That was 6 hours of research.
Sweet. That's how long it takes me to get through all my spells.
Nice.
I did have now with the other stuff you were giving me for the researching stuff. Is that basically from me being able to just kind of like speed read through books and then okay? So am I done researching now and can rejoin them once they've kind of gotten to this point?
Yeah, we'll say that roughly about
Cool.
by that time, by sort of early evening when people are starting to come together for dinner, you are otherwise done your research as well.
Awesome. And I figure I was far enough away that I would not have heard Jacob, so I still don't know anything about Jacob.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we'll circle back to you in just a moment, but since it's been a significant amount of time, Gildy and Talon, what have you been up to?
So the last thing that happened was that the abbot took the heart and went into the temple. So Talon would have probably tried to find Vanwar and try to take him into a private space somewhere and basically sort of confide in him first and kind of explain pretty much without any restriction. Maybe not each and every detail, but at least just to say, what influence he felt he was under, kind of the, how it led up to last night, and explain that he was involved in, what happened in the temple.
He is perfectly willing to listen. How much do you want to tell him?
I will probably, now's probably a good time to kind of share, and then at least the group kind of knows a bit more of the backstory. So Talon explains that, a number of years ago, while he was, studying at the monastery and going with studies, that he was approached by, a god. And first he didn't know what it was. At first it was kind of like a voice suggesting things, and it seemed to be right about things, and eventually learned that the voice seemed to be that of a god. And the god basically told him that Talon was sort of selected, that he was special, and that the god would sort of help him develop and be who he was meant to be. And so Talon felt very special and thought, okay, this is amazing. This is a blessing of sorts. And the initial things that Talon was sort of asked to do in honor of the god, were seemingly good things, and Talon's like, oh, this is good. And then those things turn to be slightly more miscreant, slightly more devious, and up to and including, because Talon at this point I think is just going to reveal all, that he was actually involved in the death of one of the people in the monastery. He didn't realize that, well, he believes that he was involved. There were basically things that Talon was involved in doing, and it wasn't like, kill this person, but when somebody died and some details were revealed of what seemed to happen, Talon feels like his actions might have been, contributing actions to what happened. And that is when Talon felt that he needed to leave, and why he needed to sort of search out, because the god that he believed was influencing him was presenting as the Shadow Weaver, and this is the temple of the Archmage, and so he was a bit of a in conflict there, and once realized that he felt like he was like far enough down a path that he didn't know how to come back from it. He's like, I need to leave. And his intention was to figure out and do research, and so oftentimes, so he left. He went to Silver Lake as the nearest biggest town that he thought maybe he could find some research material, etc., to try to find out more about the Shadow Weaver and try to figure out ways to break this connection or somehow separate himself from this god, and up until now has been completely unsuccessful. But knowing some of the things that have happened, he felt very strongly that if the Shadow Weaver asked him to do something, he sort of had to obey, because he knew the consequences could be dire. And there was often sort of a subtone of sort of a threat of, it's not just if you don't do this, you're going to die. It's people you care about, and like the consequences are much bigger than you. And so the previous night, went back in the monastery, and had been some time before he'd been asked to do something. when the voice he heard in his head was that, he had to sort of heed the call of Gerbo, who came and said, here's what we need to do. He felt he had to, to carry through with those sort of orders. And when the Archmage then approached him after the incident, the Archmage conveyed that, she still supported him and, still looked at him as, one of, her disciples, and very much, one of her, I can't remember what the word was, and indicated that the god that Talon believed was a Shadow Weaver was not the Shadow Weaver, and basically urged him to continue the research to find out more, but that the Shadow Weaver isn't who you're supposed to be looking for or looking into. So that's all he knows, but he feels like this weight kind of being lifted, but also feeling very vulnerable because he realizes that there could be a significant punishment, but he feels like at this moment, with the Archmage's sort of push, that he needs to reveal this, at least to him and to the abbot.
Vanuar is sort of takes this all in. You can tell just from his expression, he's quite shocked.
Yeah.
Very surprised at all of this, especially when you mention the death of Vondrick, and potentially having been involved in that, and then having been involved in this most recent incident as well. It seems the Archmage has forgiven you for what you have done. I am not sure I am as forgiving in this moment, having just heard the news of what you have done. I might need a little bit of time to sit with this and contemplate this. I am very disappointed in you. I thought when we came from our home in the Ealanine forest that you... I worried about you. I knew that this place of learning may not be the best place for you. You were never one who sought out such places, and yet you fit in here well. You mastered these arts and the physical aspect of things. You took to that with amazing alacrity, and I thought finally you had found a home, but I will need some time, and I definitely think you need to tell the abbot about this. I am not the one who would be one to punish you. We are friends, and I am your mentor, but I am not your direct sort of overseer of the temple. I suggest you speak to the abbot and see what he has to say.
Talon conveys that I do not expect your forgiveness. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I do not forgive myself. But I needed to tell you, this has been something that has weighed on me for some time, and and it says doesn't want to be alone anymore.
Well, in that at least you seem to have found an interesting group that you are with, and I hope if you tell them of this that perhaps they can be more receptive than I was. And he just sort of, gets up and just sort of leaves at that point, and I need some time.
Yeah. And Talon just, kind of nods and without a word lets him leave, and probably waits a few minutes before he's ready, and then he gets up and probably sees at that point what people are doing, not necessarily to get involved in, but just to kind of take stock of okay, people are in the library doing this or that. Not sure what Gildy's doing yet.
You check in on the others, and yes, Mint and Jacob and Turok are poring over books. Leon is poring over different books. and sort of all sort of in one corner of the library, sort of working away on whatever it is they're looking to.
Yeah. So yeah, at some point later, when it seems like a good time, he will, request an audience with the abbot. Obviously, the abbot is aware that Talon wants to talk to him.
Yeah.
And will sort of convey the same history to him.
The abbot has a very different reaction. In the moment as he's hearing it, you can definitely tell there's some surprise and shock. And yet, by the end of the tale, he seems like he's sort of at least at peace, and sort of nods a little bit as you sort of finish up with the most recent events, and says, "I have always suspected that there was something going on, and perhaps I should have tried to intervene sooner. Perhaps I should have asked sooner. I do not blame myself, and I do not blame you. I blame whoever it is who is trying to affect you. I simply wish that you would have come to us sooner, that you would have trusted us to help you with this once you thought it was something that you needed help with."
And I would have, but to be honest, I feared for you, and I feared for everyone here, because I did not know what would happen.
But having heard this, having listened to you, and having some greater insights now into maybe what has been happening at my temple, I have some things I need to take care of, and I think I have some research I need to do. I think I may know who it is who is affecting you, and if that is the case, there may be some ways that we can root out to see if there are others who might be affected.
If there is anything that I can help with,
I know you have never had much of a head for research, but if you would like to help, it would never be amiss.
I will forever be a disciple of the Archmage, and I will not deviate again. And I realize that I cannot assume your trust, but I hope to one day have earned it again.
And he smiles. Again, he doesn't seem upset. Definitely sort of very different reaction than Vanuar. And as he does, you sort of feel this weight of almost like a hand on your shoulder, even though he's sitting across the room. And this presence that's with you, that's very different from the voice that you'd heard and the presence that you felt with them. As you sort of mentioned, it felt sort of a little colder, like there were consequences, and this is warmer, this is accepting. And we've got a little bit of time left. We'll sort of leave Talon there to see if there's anything that Gildy was taking care of during that afternoon.
Yeah, Gildy doesn't have any epic backstory to explore in this situation. She is going to she's going to spend a little bit of time fretting over Morgan, making sure that they're all set up and comfortable. But beyond that, she's also going to ask around with everyone who lives at the temple about if they know anything about what's happening to the forest, if they have any ideas about the dome and how to kind of counteract that. She's not one for books. She wouldn't go to the library and start looking at books, but she's going to ask all the people.
All right. So two things. One, you fret over Morgan a little bit. Morgan actually says Morgan and Brato are being called out to sort of a practice, not quite calisthenics, but there's some monks that are going to be trying to go through some routines, and sort of they thought, well, maybe we'll watch, or but yeah, very quickly the woman who you sort of got the sense was Talon's instructor sort of quickly invites them into the group, starts showing them some forms and how to move through them as this sort of very physical practice. Brato does not really take to it very well, but Morgan, surprisingly, seems to move with some of the movements quite well, and sort of get the sense that, yeah, maybe he won't be so they won't be so alone here after all.
When Morgan says that they're going to go do that, Gildy says, "Good, you could use some exercise."
I run from people all the time. I'm a really good runner. And the second
But you
thing,
have no muscles on these scruffy bones.
second thing, when you ask about the Shadow Forest, you definitely get the sense that there's lore about the Shadow Forest here. People know about the Shadow Forest, but it's old information. It's older lore, and what's happening very much seems to be a more recent event, and recent as in the last 100 years, maybe 200 or 300 years. It's still recent for their terms. So most of them aren't quite sure. The ones who went with you today, that was their first time seeing a dome. And they have no clue what's inside of it and what's going on in there. Most likely you can share more information with them than they can share with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if they don't need to know very much, then she's gonna share everything that she's experienced.
Yeah,
about.
I mean, they can tell you some of the ancient history of the Shadow Forest and some of the beliefs about where the shadows originated. There was once a great tree of shadows, and they believe that tree sort of links the forest somewhere deep in the forest to the Shadowfell, and from there the Shadow Forest sort of grew and then sort of became what it is. But again, that was in a day when it wasn't evil, it was just shadowy. And definitely there's been a force in more recent times that is putting these domes in, and these creatures that are much more sort of vicious are newer elements to the forest that weren't there before. So there was always some strange creatures in the forest, but never quite anything like this. So yes, you don't get a whole lot of information for what you're really looking for.
Okay.
Okay, so we had some research wrapping up. We have Talon with the abbot.
Yep. And then Leon actually has something that she wants to gather
Yes.
the people together and share.
Yes. So we'll say that you're sort of all coming together for dinner, starting to for Jacob, Torok, and Mint, there's maybe a sense of you found something, and maybe either after dinner or tomorrow, if you can find somebody who has this particular spell, maybe you can give this a shot. Not sure exactly how sort of Talon is feeling, whether he's feeling sort of a little lighter, a little better, whether he's going to tell the group about it and sort of what he's bringing to the table. But yes, you all come together. And what does Leon have?
So are we all eating like separately from everyone else? We're all alone?
If you would like to be, yes.
Okay, then yeah, I guess if there's the option for us to have a meal like together, completely separate from everyone else, including Brado and Morgan.
Yeah, like you could even, like, there's a sort of a dining hall, which is relatively sort of crowded, but you could take your meals outside and sort of sit in a corner of the temple.
Okay, yeah, well then Leon's gonna suggest that and say, could we perhaps dine? Is it nighttime at this point? Like how late is it?
It's probably about 6-ish in the evening. So
it is the Shadow Forest.
It is the Shadow Forest, but the Shadow Forest does not necessarily affect the temple ground so much.
Right.
It's getting into evening. The sun is definitely sort of beyond the trees, and sort of long shadows, but there's still a little bit of light out.
Okay, well then I invite everyone to join me out on the grounds to dine in the sunset.
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right, and then I guess I'll just have summoned Ranu to kind of scout the area to make sure that we're not going to be disturbed. So if we're sitting kind of in the corner along, near the wall, then Rana will be kind of up on top to warn me of any approach or whatever. And so after the meal kind of thing, then Leon says, I have come to a decision, because You have all generally proven yourself to be very trustworthy individuals. Undoubtedly gives a bit of a side glance in Jacob's direction unintentionally. And with my recent rebirth, as it were, I've decided that I am no longer going to live in fear. And although I wish for what I am about to tell you to be kept in secret, I am not as afraid to reveal it anymore. My name is not Leon Paramitha of Roratari.
It's shorter.
I am Her Most Royal Highness, Anastriana Salamiaranus of Del, 7th in the line of the Delish throne, Baroness of Rahael Mutawasti of the Sereda tradition.
It's much longer.
Not shorter.
Are we going to be quizzed on this later? I'm
I
writing
don't
it.
think I can spell all that.
I'm writing it down.
I tried to. I couldn't keep up.
And then she looks around to see if anybody has any reactions to this.
So you're wait, you said Baroness?
Royal Highness.
Royal Highness.
Most Royal Highness. Yes.
Most Royal
Sorry.
Highness.
All right, sorry, Billy.
Okay.
I am a royal princess of Del, who is also then Baroness, and undoubtedly, if you're going to ask that question, undoubtedly she goes into explaining like the whole how it's like, yes, Royal Highness, but then also Baroness as a and just goes into a long explanation of the Royal House of Del because reasons.
So why are you hoofing it with us, Your Most Royal Highness? Because, I mean, if you're indeed royalty, this is roughing it.
Indeed, and now you can understand. Now you can understand why riding in something like a vegetable cart was such a horrendous experience, and why I couldn't stay in a barn. A royal princess staying in a barn? I don't think so. So, as I had mentioned previously, I am betrothed. And wait, I have to find the person I'm betrothed to. There is an ancient tradition where every 7 generations a marriage is arranged between the Salamarianus family of the west and the Havardashilinos of the east. So I was expected to marry Aquilsenin Hadarashilinos. However, with the war, it was proposed that I should marry Fazlukari Marcobarius, who is a bachelor from a family with a lot of land in the south and a lot of people in the south. It was basically the Council of Elders had decided that it was going to be better for the war effort. However, it was completely unacceptable to break the tradition just for the war. And so, in an effort to try to bring the Council of Elders to its senses, my mother, the Queen, had me moved to my sister's ship, where we were attacked, and I believe my sister did not survive, and I awoke on the northern shore, wandered into the desert, and that is where I encountered the caravan with you, Torok, and you, Miniset. And since I cannot return if they are simply going to try to have me married to an individual that would break our ancient alliance. And I am certainly not safe within Mournish territory as a royal princess of Del, and so I have been traveling incognito, as it were.
You could tell Torok's trying to decide if he should bow or not. You could see it going through his head. What's protocol? I do not know protocol on this.
I think Leon would probably look at him encouragingly, like, go with your feeling, my friend.
So, just reminding myself of the map. So, would that make Anastria? I messed up. Anyway, would that make you our princess, or are you a princess of like a neighboring like? What is the relationship of sort of your territory, your position, and where we are?
So Del is the southern country with that the Moorish Empire is currently at war with.
Okay.
And has conquered the northern half of the kingdom.
Yeah, essentially got to the Delva River, which is a significant waterway, and the battles have been mostly on the river at the moment. But yes, currently Southern Del is still fighting. Northern Del is occupied and in rebellion half the time. But it is well south of where you are in Silver Lake, which is sort of outside the realm of any kingdom. And otherwise, yeah, you're definitely not of royalty of anywhere near where you are at the moment. It's significantly south of where you are.
Okay. Thank you.
Definitely outside of her jurisdiction, but also in basically enemy territory.
Yeah.
So Gildy kind of like is absorbing this and kind of nods, like she's a little bit surprised to hear that Leon is so high in royalty, but it was like fairly obvious that Leon was like some sort of royalty, and Leon had previously kind of implied or said that I can't remember exactly what it was, but that this wasn't her real name and that she was traveling under a pseudonym. And so Gildy isn't super surprised to hear this revelation. So she's kind of nodding and she absorbs it and she says, do you want to be called Leon or Anastriana?
I think it's safer to call you Leon while we're traveling, just to keep your identity secret.
Yes, I agree completely. Funny story. I actually, as Torok and Minuset might remember, I had actually originally gone by the name Augustinus, but then it became so cumbersome, and I noticed this lovely little shop when we first arrived in
Silver Lake?
In Silver Lake, yeah, of course. The character who can remember everything, and I can't remember things. Well, I can remember everything, but just in this game. When we first arrived in Silver Lake, I had found a small shop, actually from, and I can't remember the name of the place that it's from either. From Emratan, and saw the name Leon and thought that is a much lovelier name, and that is where I got the name from. Although Roratari is actually a city, and I did visit there as a child.
Okay, so Gildy says, okay, Leon it is. And then as an afterthought, she says, Your Highness. Most Royal Highness.
The one part that I didn't quite catch was, were you the Most Royal Highness Princess of the West or of the East?
Well, I am the princess of all of Del. However, my family is from the West.
And you are to marry someone, or you're supposed to marry someone from the East, but instead they decided to force you to marry someone from the South, breaking tradition. Okay, I think I can follow it now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's the two families which are the pillars of Del, and every 7 generations there is an arranged marriage, and I was to be married to Aquilsanin Hudera Shalanos.
Have you met either of these potential spouses?
I don't know, Rob. Have I met my have I met my proper
Betrothed?
have I met my proper betrothed?
I'm gonna say you probably met once when you were kids, but you have not seen them as an adult.
All right.
So that would be like you're an elf, so that could be like dozens of years ago.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty clear that like Leon, like that's not a significant factor. Like the significant factor is there is this ancient tradition of this arranged marriage, and Leon is not going to be the one to break that tradition. No way. And like it's pretty clear that like, well, Del is struggling, and having this other family with lots of people like come more actively into the war, that would be a good thing. And Leon is just like, I don't care about that. There is this tradition, and that is what is important.
Like refusing to live under the veil of terror and live your life freely. I can get behind that.
I mean, I don't think it comes across like that. It's just like tradition and what she is supposed to do as a member of the royal family is like of paramount importance. That is what matters, and everything else is of secondary concern. It's undoubtedly pretty clear she would rather lose the war and like continue that alliance rather than break that alliance to win the war.
Talon, I mean, hasn't shared anything, but obviously has kind of gone through a bit of a, something today, and basically looks to Leon and says that he's very sorry that you've had to live a life that you were not meant to live for so long, and if there's ever anything that I can do to help, I'm here. But otherwise, I'm happy to have met you, and happy to be considered your friend.
I think Leon clearly has a little pause waiting for a "Your Highness." It doesn't come, and then she's like, and is like, "Thank you."
Town, I mean, not intentionally to be rude, but probably wouldn't have thought and wouldn't
Oh no,
have
it's totally in character. But like Leon has really like clearly not like a power trip or something like that, but just really appreciated the people who have called her properly by her title, and so is now waiting for Talon to have that opportunity, and is like, no, okay, oh, thank you.
All right. So yes, as evening falls and you all sort of soak in this information, getting sort of a little bit to a good stopping point. Is there anything else that might come up in this moment of as you're finishing dinner, otherwise sort of privately in the corner of one of the yards, or the corner of the yard of the temple?
I would love to say something witty, but it's gotten so serious tonight. But I want to thank everyone for sharing. This is an interesting evening.
All right.
Talon won't be sharing anything. He has gone through twice a kind of emotional conversation, and he's quite worn out. So his intention probably is shortly after dinner to go to bed. Obviously didn't get a lot of sleep last night too. But yes, his intention will probably be to share this, his story, sometime after they leave the monastery, probably around a campfire or something, just in the quiet, outside of this place sort of time.
And I think Torok's in the same position. It would feel like trying to upstage at this point to share anything more.
Yeah, there's that as well.
All right. Well, then this seems like a good place to end things on a bit of a revelation and a lighter note. So we will sort of end off there and pick things up next time, looking into all of the other little things that we've found out and continuing on with those threads as we continue on and find out what happens next on the next level. So thank you for joining us, guys. Take care, have a good week, and we'll see you again next week on the 27th, and then we'll be starting our every 2 week stint after that. All right, thanks, take care, see you later.